What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall markets. I want to talk about whether or not the market is close to a bottom, in my opinion, or not. What's happening involving Donald Trump's tariffs and why tomorrow is going to be a crazy day, as we have Jerome Powell giving a very big speech and lots of big data. Just know that I'm not a financial planner, so take nothing that way. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. Deposits $2,000 and you're guaranteed 30. So, as far as the market's going, Tesla's on a downtrend, as you guys could quite clearly tell. Now, in my video yesterday, I was looking at some interesting signals as we were forming bullish divergences. And then we were also looking at this potential inverse head and shoulders on Tesla to possibly pan out. I said we wanted to see if we could break resistance, and I was a little bit more hopeful for that. But unfortunately, we ended up getting a rejection and the move ended up failing. Right? If you look at SPY or the QQQ, we had very similar setups. This is what the setup looked like yesterday on SPY. We had an inverse head and shoulders, nice divergence, trying to push. The QQQ had an even cleaner one. Like, look at the QQQ yesterday, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We had a bullish divergence that was developing right over here, as you guys could quite clearly see. And this would have suggested upside was more probable, but instead the move failed and we got a dump. We also broke the low here, so we invalidated the inverse head and shoulders. And we're seeing this throughout the markets, right? We saw Nvda do the same thing, so did Amazon. So the market's looking weak for the time being, and it's not the best of signs. That's why I want to do a very, very important shift right now and just make it very clear that it's important to follow price action, follow what the price action is telling us when trading on an intraday basis. Now, I do still anticipate that there could be a bounce coming in the future if we hit a particular level. So, for example, for SPY, we're going to be looking for essentially that, the 568 area. We need to lose that to turn even more bearish. If we could hold that, there's still some hope. And I'll break down exactly why that is, but I'm still going to be very unbiased when saying this, right? So for Tesla, right, we have this big gap to fill all the way down here around 253. If we can't hold 260, I do expect us to tip a little bit more to fill it. Then we'll see if we try to bounce off that support or not. To be bullish, I want to see Tesla get back above at least 280. If that is reclaimed, then there's going to be potential for about that 294 retest, then 301. However, we're not really there yet. We're actually still looking weak on the daily. We tried to bounce and we failed so far. And don't even get me started with Tesla's bad news. This is just insane. Their sales are declining in Germany. The Chinese EV sales are declining. We're seeing price downgrades from different analysts. Two happened today alone. So we got two downgrades for Tesla. We're seeing analysts saying that they're going to be missing on deliveries. So the news is just endless for Tesla. It's all just so negative. So that's the one thing that's not so good about the stock for now. But it creates an opportunity for the long term to get shares for a lot cheaper. So I'm eyeing this gap down here. We could come down to fill this first before we see some kind of bounce move. And that's just a possibility, right? But a lot of this is going to depend on factors for tomorrow. So I want to focus on that first and I'll break down more details. The first thing is what's going on with Donald Trump and his tariffs. As a reminder, Donald Trump has imposed tariffs on Mexico and Canada at a rate of 25%. There were some exemptions, such as for the auto industry, as we're seeing a 1 month delay potentially in those tariffs if they do comply with a lot of these regulations. However, here's the thing about that. We're watching to see if there's going to be even more of these exemptions. That's going to be very important for us. On the other hand, there's been a lot of fear right now, especially as more retail stocks are announcing their earnings, from like Best Buy to Costco, and the list goes on. There's fears about how prices could start going up, especially as they depend on different countries, such as like Canada and Mexico and China. So keep that in mind. This could cause short-term inflation. Donald Trump said the same thing today. He said that he isn't even looking at the stock market. Then he mentioned that there's going to be a short-term disruption. He said to bear with it, and it's going to be worth it for the long term. So Donald Trump is telling us that, yes, there's going to be short-term pain. We could see some short-term pain in the stock markets for now. There's also short-term pain because of what's going to happen to like grocery prices and such. So keep that in mind. We went over this many times on my channel. We also had this very important speech by the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. He talked about something very important about the stock market. He mentioned that the stock market goes down 0.5% or 8%. Then he said that it goes up 0.5% or a percent, that it is not the driving force of their outcomes. Their outcomes are driven by what we want. We want factory production in America, and we want employment to explode in America. That's what Lutnick said on his CNBC interview. Then he said that you're going to see the stock market explode. And if it doesn't do it tomorrow, it's because people just don't understand that they should be betting on Trump. So that's what he said. He is promising that the long term is going to be very, very bright. He said that if I were them and I were your viewers, I would understand the long term trade with Donald Trump is a bet on him and he's a winner and he's going to win for America. So that's what they're essentially saying, right? The short term has this pain, but there's going to be a lot of, long term upside. For now, Donald Trump and these other figures were not really doing enough to cause the market to bounce for the short term, not yet. But we'll see how things end up changing, especially as we have these external factors. Now, tomorrow is going to be a crazy day because it's going to be Friday, March 7th, 2024. What's important about that is that we have the unemployment numbers coming out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, alongside other pieces of data, so watch to see how that ends up going. Then we have Jerome Powell giving a speech at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Two big factors: unemployment numbers in the morning before market open. Then we have Jerome Powell is going to be talking a lot. Whatever Jerome Powell says could shake the market, so make sure you're ready for that. He is known as the biggest market maker, and we'll see what he says about the economy. Also, we have a very, very mixed put to call option ratio. It's very mixed for tomorrow, so we could go either way. But one thing that does kind of open my eyes is the fact that there's extreme fear right now. People are panicking. They're saying the recession is here. The stock market is about to crash to new lows. Like everyone is thinking that. And that makes me suspect there's going to be a bounce coming. I don't see it on the chart yet. I'm not saying it's happening yet. I'm simply saying that I have a feeling it's going to happen soon. And that's why I'm going to be paying very close attention to some key levels. Okay. So for now, the charts are bearish. We could dip more for the short term, but there could be a bounce for 1 to 2 weeks coming, maybe as soon as next week, maybe in a week from now. And the reason I say that is because of how sentiment is looking and because we dumped so hard without much of a bounce. I think much of the news is going to get priced in, and because everyone is so bearish, this could cause a bit of a shift. There's that strong possibility. Momentum is at extreme fear. The put to call option ratio is going up and the VIX is still bullish. So these are still bearish signals for the markets for now, but they could shift as time goes on. For earnings, we had AVGO. That did relatively well. Very, very good earnings, raising their guidance. The share price went up. Costco had not the best of earnings. They missed on EPS with $4.02. And then their overall revenue was better than expected at $63.7 billion. Despite that, there was lots of fears about inflation going up and what's going to happen with the tariffs under Donald Trump, which caused the share price to go down. With that being said, what do I see for the share price for now? As you guys can see, looking at Tesla, there's a big downtrend right here. We need to try to hold 260 and bounce off of that. If we don't bounce off 260, we filled the gap all the way down towards the 252 area, and we'll see if we bounce off that or not. So watch that very, very closely. We'll be watching to see if Tesla ends up dipping just a little bit. There's a strong possibility of that. Now, if Tesla gets a bounce, you want to see us try to get back to about 280. We need to break 280 to turn bullish. If we could break that, I will lean a bit more bullish. I do anticipate a little bit more downside for now because we barely held 260 today. But then as time goes on, whether it's the unemployment numbers or if it's Jerome Powell's speech, that could cause a big shift, and we'll see if that causes a bounce near either 250 or even at this 260 area. So I anticipate we might dip a bit more, but then we'll see if we get a big bounce afterwards. That's also another big possibility because of Jerome Powell and these factors, to see if Tesla can make a nice recovery move. For now, the chart is bearish. We are favoring downside if we can't get back above 280. We're still favoring a move all the way down to 260. If that fails us, we have the gap fill around the low 250s. But just to be very safe, I want to see a break past 280 for us to see some kind of bounce. Now for SPY, okay, we're on a downtrend right now. We're making lower highs and lower lows. But keep in mind the daily chart has not lost our 200 EMA. We were still actually above our support. We haven't lost 568 to 572, that range I was talking about. We did lose 572, but we haven't lost 568. So I'll be watching that. If we do see some kind of dip move tomorrow, I don't know. It depends on unemployment and Jerome Powell. But if we bounce off this and see a nice rebound here, we could be looking for an attempt to bounce very, very nicely. We could get a nice, 2 to 3% bounce over the next couple of weeks if we do end up holding 568. If 568 fails us, though, this could be dumping even more to the lower 560s. So it all depends if we bounce off that support or not. It could go either way, but I'm going to be very unbiased. I want to just be open-minded to anything. So make sure you guys are ready just to be safe. Look for a downside move tomorrow to about that 568 area, and we'll see if buyers defend. The QQQ is looking bearish. We could be dipping towards that 485 area, and we have to see if we bounce off this or not. If we do, we could be looking for the 500 area to be retested again. If we lose 485, we're looking for a bigger dump. The Russell 2000 is looking bearish. We're looking for the 202 to 200 area to see if we bounce. We could be dipping a bit more, so we'll see if buyers defense will keep that in mind. On the ES chart, I want to see us basically reclaim 58.25 to bounce. We could dip a little bit more. As long as we don't lose 5,700, we're going to be fine. But my gut tells me that we could be dipping closer to the lower 5,700s before we try to rebound. If we get back above 58.25, we could turn back to bullish. As long as we're below that, we're not going to be looking too good, so just keep that in mind. For NQ, we're looking bearish, but we're still holding 20,000. If 20,000 fails, we could be dipping all the way down to about 19,500. Looks a bit less likely, but I'm going to be watching that support at 20,000. If we could have managed to hold that, we could be looking for a rebound for 20,600. So watch that very closely. Bitcoin could be dipping to about 85,800, so give that some time. Nvidia is looking a bit more bearish. We're trying to hold 110. If it does not hold us, we could be dipping closer to about that 107 to 105 range. There could be a little bit more downside. We're still making lower lows and lower highs, but we're waiting for that bounce, whether it's at 107 to 105, so keep that in mind. For Apple, we need to reclaim 238s to bounce. We also have a big gap up here to fill. We're looking a little bit weak, though, so keep that in mind. We're still on a technical downtrend. So if we lose 232, we're looking for a dip to 230. If we break past 238, we're looking for 240 plus. We're in the middle right now. I do think there could be a downside move coming to 232 before it tries and attempts to bounce. So give that some time. Netflix is looking a bit more bearish. We have a big gap to fill, but it depends on if we lose 900 or not. That's a big support. If 900 holds, we're looking for a move back up to 950. If we lose 900, we're going to be looking for a dump to 870. So it could go either way depending on this 900 test. For Supermicro, a little bit more bearish looking. We need to reclaim 40 to bounce. Otherwise, we're favoring this dip to about 35 first. We could dip to 35, if not lower, to fill some of these gaps to like 33.8 to 35, and we'll see if we bounce off those levels. AMD, it's on a downtrend. You want to see it get back up of 100 to bounce. It's still kind of weak here. Might be coming down to like 96 before some buyers defend it. Coin is looking a little bit more promising. We do have a big crypto event very soon. However, I just want to say that this looks a little bit bearish on the daily, so it might dip to about 208 first before it tries to rebound. I want to see it reclaim like 225 to bounce, so it might dip first. Amazon's on a big downtrend right now. We're going to be watching this support around this like 198 to 200 zone. We'll have to see how it holds up around here. It's still technically weak. There's still some gaps to fill as well in the 190s. So keep that in mind. We're still very, very weak. We'll see if we bounce off 198, and we'll see if some buyers get us back above 201. If they do help us reclaim 202, then that could be a good sign for 205 plus. But overall, it's still looking a little bit more bearish. Meta is a little bit weak. I want to see it get back above 635 to bounce. We are favoring a move back down to about 620 to fill that gap. So it might dip a little bit more before it tries some kind of bounce move. Microsoft, however, is looking a little bit stronger because we're holding support. We need to get back above 400 and 404 to bounce. If we end up losing 390, we could turn lower, but I want to see a break past 400 for some buyers to return. Then for Google, you want to get back above 175. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 178. So give this the time it needs. Watch to see if we can break 175. The VIX is bullish. We're making higher highs and higher lows right now. This is a bearish sign for now as the market is still bearish, but the market could change directions depending on how we end up holding these supports, looking at SPY and the others. So as far as Tesla goes, are we bearish? Yes, for now we are looking weak with all this bad news, especially when you look at the much larger trend. This is typically a bearish signal, but we'll see if we get a bounce either off 260 or the low 250s. So watch those supports. We are bearish for now. It's just so much bad news. But then once again, give the chart some time and we'll see how it goes. I thank you all for listening. I'm going to make this video kind of quicker than usual. I'll be back tomorrow morning before market open for another update. Until then, I wish you all the best. Take care, guys. Have a good night and peace out.